I think everybody always struggles with like, how do I stop being tunnel visioned? How do I practice my awareness? And my first question is always, awareness of what? You know, like what do you want to be aware of? Like you can't just be vague like that, because the problem is that most players struggle with awareness because Overwatch is a freaking confusing game, and there's about 10 things that you have to be aware of. And if you don't have those subconscious skills of being aware of this without thinking, you're not going to be able to do it. And most of these people don't have those skills. So you can't just like snap your fingers, I'm aware. No, that's not how it works.
I know how to get value and work with Tracer in theory, but oftentimes I'll just get into a game and everything goes out of my head and I'm just like focused solely on the game and I kind of forget to think a lot. And that's definitely one of my bigger problems.
So like not being able to stay focused in the game.
Yeah, and then I'll just make dumb mistakes. I'll start racking up deaths, and then my value just goes off the window.
Yeah, sure. You need to use your autopilot, but you need to be like directed with it. In other words, if you're going into like, I mean, even for what we just did, like jumping into a death match, right? What are you focused on when you're in a death match?
Just movement.
Yeah, or mostly shooting people or winning a 1v1, right? You're not thinking about as much about your positioning, although you can, but you're just kind of like, it's just, that's just kind of going in, right? So you're autopiloting so many things, and that's good. That's what you want, right? When you get into a competitive game, you might start autopiloting your ultimate usage, or you might start autopiloting your positioning, or you might start autopiloting your mechanics, or you might start autopiloting the timing or whatever detail that you want to do. And that's all fine as long as there's some, whether it's a micro, macro, big picture, small picture aspect of your play that is not autopilot, right? You want to be single focused and let everything else go. And what that single focus is up to you. I don't know. So for you, it's just like, I have a hard time thinking in game. Well, about what? Do you know? I'd say
probably positioning and timing with my tank.
Sure. So those are some things that you've obviously been working on. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's what you can't autopilot on. But again, I wouldn't say positioning and timing with my tank. I would say positioning or timing with my tank, because practicing both would be pretty difficult at the same time.
Only do one at a time.
Preferably. Yeah. Now that you can do both, like let's say you were to focus on positioning before the fight starts, and then my next step is to look at my tank, because you can do one, then the next step. But for example, if you were to do positioning, timing, and then also my pulse from usage, then there's going to be times in a game where you're going to have to start thinking about multiple things, and you're not going to give either one enough of its focused. That it deserves.
Once I start doing that, then
yes,
it's worse than doing nothing.
Correct.
I'm just stretching myself too thin.
Correct. But my point is that it's okay to autopilot on a lot of skills. The point is to focus on the skills to get to the point where you can autopilot on it, and it's still halfway decent. That's just how learning works. So for you,
if I feel like my mechanics are better, just kind of let that happen, because I'll have on days, I'll have off days. It's really not totally in my control.
Exactly.
But then just look at just positioning or something.
And it will get better naturally. It will get better with the warm-up routine that you're doing and the amount of rank that you're playing, and getting more comfortable with the hero. Now, if there is a specific aspect of your mechanics that you want to improve, you heard me talk about trigger discipline before.
Yeah, that is something I've looked at, and I think I have a decent amount of it.
But... Sure. Have you talked about or looked at practice like tracking or not tracking, but dodging cooldowns with your blinks in the middle of a game?
A little bit, definitely less.
But you see how these are like mechanical things that you can like isolate and practice. That's fine too. You know, you could say screw timing and positioning for the next day or two. I'm gonna focus only on like playing around sleeps nades, Cassidy mag grenades, Hanzo shots. You know, those kind of things. Like trying to like when I take these duels, I'm like hyper focused, not even on hitting the shots and timing and positioning, but like never letting any of these abilities hit me. Right. Yeah. That's another really valuable skill to build. So, but pick a skill. Pick something. There's just, the game is too complicated to not isolate skills, because if you start trying to do too many, there's just too much. You need to let your subconscious take over for some of it. You need to kind of cruise control on something so that you can focus on something else. Now, your question though, or maybe your problem is that maybe you're unable to focus on anything, even though one thing. Or you find yourself
I would agree,
losing.
kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what have you tried? Have you tried anything to help yourself stay focused?
Not really.
Okay. Here's a question.
I think just trying to like be generally mindful and just slowing myself down. I think that's what's helped the most.
Good. That's good. But that can be helpful, but that's also a very vague and difficult thing
That's
to
super
do.
vague. Yeah.
Right? It's like saying, today I'm going to be mindful and calm and patient.
That.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I mean, but
You have to
how?
say how.
Like
Yeah.
how, right? Because that's admirable, but like the problem is then we get overwhelmed by so many things hitting us from different directions, and then we end up being just kind of miserable. For example, if you wanted to be more mindful and patient today, maybe you could say, I'm going to be, while driving to work, I'm not going to let anything that happens along the ride there like get me in a foul mood, or I'm going to take a walk to kind of put myself in a better position for the rest of the day, or I'm going to practice being grateful about something today. You know, those are specific things that have that end goal in mind, but are providing at least a foundation of how that's going to actually happen. Right? I think everybody always struggles with, like, how do I stop being tunnel visioned? How do I practice my awareness? And my first question is always, awareness of what? You know, like what do you want to be aware of? Like, you can't just be vague like that, because the problem is that most players struggle with awareness because Overwatch is a freaking confusing game, and there's about 10 things that you have to be aware of, and if you don't have those subconscious skills of being aware of this without thinking, you're not going to be able to do it, and most of these people don't have those skills, so you can't just like snap your fingers, I'm aware. No, that's not how it works.
Find what to be aware of. Right.
And for you, maybe part of your awareness trouble is that you try to do too many things at once.
Probably, yeah.
Because it's like this toxic positivity thing where, like, I want to be aware of all these things, but then because you're trying to track so many things, you're actually not giving any of them the attention they deserve, and so you don't get better at any of them. Now you will get better, but you're just going to do it very inefficiently. Now there's a lot of other ways to do that. You know, setting sticky notes, setting little phone alarms, phone bells that go off every 10 minutes. I'm a big fan of taking breaks, like even just a 1 minute break between every single game to like recenter yourself and remind yourself, getting a lot of sleep. Those are all things that can help you to stay more focused in game. Not getting tilted.
I definitely get a lot of that.
Yeah.
I don't get tilted too much. I really only get tilted if like my teammates are just actually annoying me, like in chat or something. People on the other team.
Yeah, but you see my point here is like, either build better habits and put yourself in a better position to be focused through external circumstances or external choices, or be more specific with what you want to yourself to be aware of instead of trying to do everything at once.